Welcome everyone. You're in the Diamond Mine. Danny Diamond here. Very excited today to bring to you my ranking of the studio album output of what I feel is the greatest American metal band of all time, Metallica. Okay. Now, before we get started, I am going to mention, first of all, cheers. Well, it's heading on towards 11 at night. You've heard of whiskey in a jar. That's whiskey in a coffee cup. Goodness. Whew. I want to tell you, I'm making a few changes to these album rankings. I am trying to keep them a little shorter. I'm not all that concise. So what I'm trying to do is, in the past, I was doing, 3 top tracks per record and expounding on each song. And what I'm going to do from here on out, this will be the first time that I limit myself to just one top track per record. And that'll enable me to, as we move forward, if I want to do a ranking within a specific album, that'll maybe, keep things there a little bit more of a mystery. We'll see if I do that or not. But one thing I do want to address is I did not plan it this way. I honestly did not. I've been meaning to complete this Metallica album ranking this weekend. It just so happens that today is the anniversary of the death, of the untimely and unfortunate death of Cliff Burton back in 1986 at the age of 24. So just one more toast to the memory of Cliff Burton. Now, I am also going to say that I find, in terms of presence on the internet, Metallica seems to have more than their fair share, a higher than average number of just really vicious trolls. I find Metallica fans as a whole, I'm not talking necessarily about you, but as a whole, they're sort of a disloyal, cranky, fickle, bitchy group of folks. So I'm just going to say, I think even the worst of these 10 records is nothing like as bad as you would be led to believe if you were to read the things online about it. But that said, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that my least favorite of the 10, and we're going to jump right in here, is Saint Anger. I think the main reasons I say that, I don't think that the majority of songs are all that memorable or tuneful. The production really is quite odd. And I really miss Kirk Hammett's leads on this. Kirk is much maligned by certain corners of the guitar community. And that's really a shame, because while he might not be perfect in every technical aspect of his playing, I love what he does, and I always have. Ever since I became a fan. I was a little bit late to the Metallica party, but more on that later. But my top track off of this record is Frantic. Okay? So, my second least favorite Metallica record would be Reload. They really sort of doubled down on the stylistic direction and approach of Load, and I think maybe they would have been better off had they gone back to their roots earlier. But they're Metallica, and they follow their muse, and you got to admire them for that. So, but the best track on here for me is Fuel, rockin' track. Now this album will land at number 8, so my third least favorite. That said, I listened to this somewhat recently and was surprised by how well it had aged. Load. A really great record, a really great sounding record, just like its predecessor from a production standpoint. Good, memorable songs. Yes, a definite change in style from the previous 5 records, but a lot of great moments here. But my favorite track on this one would be King Nothing. Now, I think taking a leap forward in quality here would bring us to my number 7, their most recent record, which, depending on whether you got the standard 2 disc edition, is a double album, or whether you got the deluxe edition, as I did, a triple album. So tons and tons of material. So it takes a long time to listen to this entire thing, especially if you got the deluxe edition. But some fantastic material. My top track here would be Atlas Rise. I love the fact that they did a video for every track on the original 2 discs. I thought that was really cool. And I tend to agree. James Hetfield said that their goal was they were trying to kind of strike a good balance between the earlier records and that style, and then sort of the more exploratory direction of their latter material. And I think they were successful in that. So, really, really good record here, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Now, taking yet another and pretty massive leap forward in quality to me, and my favorite of the Metallica records of the last 29 years by far. Still some production issues on this one, yes. But other than that, production aside, I think this is a pretty damn perfect metal record. Death Magnetic, I listened to it just the other week. Fantastic. I listened to this, I would say the year that it came out, I was probably listening to this about a third of the time that I was listening to anything. Just a fantastic, fantastic record. My favorite track off of this is That Was Just Your Life, but I really, really admire the way that they cram, Metallica is really great at taking 25 world-class riffs, it seems like, and cramming them into one song. Just a spectacular feat of creativity and the ability to make, complex arrangements work. And that's definitely on display here. And Kirk Hammett, totally returns to form, after the solo-less Saint Anger record. You can just tell that he was just had an itchy trigger finger here and was raring to go for this record, because some really fantastic and well-composed solos on this record. So, now, here we get in the top 5. From here on out, and I say this a lot with these rankings, but it really is often the case where, you get into the best of the catalog, and, you could come up to me in any of these next 5 records, you could say, this is my favorite Metallica album, and I'm sure I would understand your reasoning. But I'm gonna start the top 5 with the debut, Kill 'Em All. This is a record that my appreciation of it has just really grown by leaps and bounds over the last few years, ever since the movie Through the Never came out. I just love this record. And my favorite track off of this record would be The Four Horsemen. But I did listen to it just today and was absolutely marveling, of course, at Cliff Burton's solo showpiece, Anesthesia Pulling Teeth. Fantastic record, metal classic. Okay, now recently I did 2 Facebook polls, and I will put the results in detail in the description very shortly. But I pitted the Black Album against And Justice for All, and Ride the Lightning against Master Puppets. It was a landslide, and this next album did not win against And Justice for All, but I do love this record. This is my 4th favorite Metallica album, the Black Album. At one time, this was my favorite record in the catalog. But my taste in music and in Metallica has sort of evolved over the years. Now, my first band, we actually played many tracks off this record live. Uh, we were together in 1991 and 92, and so we were playing these tracks as they were going bananas all over rock and metal radio. This is the band's best-selling album. It gets a lot of backlash, a lot of trolling online, but it sold over 15 million copies for a reason. It's fantastic. But Wherever May Roam is my top track off of this, and that was one of the tracks that we played live in my first band. And one of the other guitarists and I, we used to always, we were pretty fair about the lead, so we sort of said, okay, well, you're getting to play this Metallica lead, so I'll play that one. I got to play the Wherever May Roam lead. At some point, I'll relearn that and have to do a video post. But we're going to move on now to the album that changed my mind about the band. As I said, I was a little late to the Metallica party. I was first aware of them in 1986, and a buddy of mine brought the Master of Puppets cassette around. And it may be that I say he was a buddy of mine. He was sort of an interloper in a little group. Didn't fit in that great. I didn't get along with him that well, so it may have been an association thing. But also, they were just so intense to me at the time. I kind of couldn't process, and that's been something that's happened to me with metal a lot over the years. But Metallica, it certainly at first, I'd been listening to Sabbath, I'd been listening to Maiden, I'd been listening to Priest. Metallica was so fast, so heavy, so intense, I couldn't process it at first. It took me a little while to develop the taste for them. The album that turned it around for me is my third favorite album of all time. Now, this is not going to show up all that well. I'm going to have to manipulate it a little bit. There we go. There's that wonderful cover art. And there it goes again. Anyway, okay, so Injustice for All. I remember borrowing a buddy of mine's cassette of this back in my college days. And it was 6 months before that poor joker got his tape back. My favorite track off of Injustice for All would be The Frayed Ends of Sanity. There's a specific riff in this. There's just one, in that song, there's one of my favorite riffs that the band ever did. And they are absolute masters of the riff. Up there with Sabbath, Purple, Zeppelin, anybody who writes great guitar riffs. So we're moving on to the top two now. The poll, Injustice for All, Injustice for All won by a landslide, but the race online was a lot closer between my number two and my number one. Now, my number one did win out by just a hair over this metal classic. At number two, just by a hair here with me as well, would be Ride the Lightning. Fantastic, fantastic record. Basically perfect. Top track for me would go to Fade to Black, an epic, epic power ballad. I recently just did a video of my version of the opening solo. Okay, so we're going to move on, and no surprise here, I think, for most folks. I think at this point it's almost anyone's favorite Metallica album. Master of Puppets, one of just the very best metal albums of all time by anyone. Masterpiece. Just absolute masterpiece. I really spent some time agonizing about what I would pick as top track, and I think what won out for me, just in terms of structure, and I like things that kind of take you on a ride. So Welcome Home Sanitarium gets top track for me. Okay, so this is my second attempt to film this. My first one was a little shorter at about 12 and a half minutes. I'm stopping right here at about 14 and a half minutes. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already, and please participate. If you disagree with me, please keep it classy, but put your ranking in the comment section below. That's half of why I'm doing this, is to get people talking about the bands and sharing their opinions with me. I'm interested. I want to know what you think. I just told you what I think, okay? But until you see me again, please be well, enjoy life, and come back to the mind soon and often. Cheers.